Hello, welcome back to the channel, and we're visiting Fuller's Brewery in this video. So as you can see, I've got a few beers here from Fuller's. I'm not going to be drinking all on this video. I've got for different videos coming out for most of these. There'll be a separate video for this porter. There's a bit of a story for that one. There'll be a separate one for the ESB and possibly the 1845, and we've had London Pride before on the channel when I did the bitter video, but yeah, so I wanted to do a little bit of a video about Fuller's Brewery. You can see there's two glasses here as well, so obviously I'm going to be cracking open two beers, and if you've looked at the title anyway, it'll be on there. So Fuller's Brewery, yep, so they basically, a little bit of history about them. They dated back to the 1600s when you had, well, not when you had, when there was basically a Thomas Mawson who had purchased the George Public House in Chiswick, some cottages, and then he bought the brew house, and that brew house in 1816 turned into the Griffin Brewery, so 200 years later, and that was then run by the Thompson brothers. It was Douglas and Henry Thompson, and that's when the Griffin, which is on their emblem, basically that's when that turned up. I don't know if you can see that. It's London Pride. There's the Griffin just on the label there. I'll put it up on the screen, it's easier. So the Griffin Brewery, the Griffin emblem, that's when that started, 1816. And then they had little financial problems, and then I think it's about 1839, around there somewhere, John Fuller's, and then he then passed it on to his son, and then his son got involved with Smith and Turner, so they joined in 1845, which I think that beer, I'm correct, is called 1845. So that's the beer that basically celebrates when that brewery came together. So it became Fuller's, Smith and Turner in 1845. So the actual history just goes a little bit back, and they were family owned independent brewery all the way up to 2019, when they sold the beer side of Fuller's to Asahi for 250 million. Now the offer was basically double what it was priced at, so they just snapped the hands off Asahi. But Asahi did sort of promise that they would still brew at the Griffin Brewery, and they're still going to do the recipes, so hopefully all is well. So Fuller's just took on basically the estate, so the pubs, the hotels, and then Asahi brew the beers at the Griffin Brewery and then provide them to the Fuller's hotels and pubs. So that happened in 2019. There's still some Fuller's, Smith and Turners on the board at Fuller's. Some of them are non-execs, some are directors, so there's still, the family, is still involved there. The actual brewery was one of the only breweries to win CAMRA Champion Beer with 3 different beers, and that was a Chiswick Bitter. Not got that one here, that probably only goes in a cask if I'm honest. ESB over at the end, and London Pride at this end. So they've all won CAMRA's Champion Beer of the Year. So apparently they're the only brewery to actually do that with 3 different beers. So yeah, so that's it, a little bit of background to them. So let's move on to the 2 beers that we're going to do on this video. So two fairly special beers, to be honest. First one is Fuller's Golden Pride, and then the other one is Fuller's Vintage Ale. Now let me just get rid of these ones. So we've got these 2 beers, and a little bit about these 2. So let's get them in the glass. I've got the 2 little glasses here. There's my bottle opener. So we've got the Golden Pride and we've got the Vintage Ale. Now the Golden Pride was brewed back in 1967. The Vintage Ale was started to be brewed in 1997, 30 years later. The Vintage Ale is, what I've read and what I've been looking at, is very, the recipe is very similar, and possibly the recipe is from the same mash. I don't know. This is only stuff that I've read, but I know that well, let's go on about the Golden Pride first. Let's talk a little bit about Golden Pride. So, Golden Pride was a barley wine back in 1967. The brewer then was Reg Drury. He actually joined around about I don't know the exact date, but he did come in and he helped them with all their cask beers. So he was a massive, massive help to Fuller's. This Golden Pride is brewed like a traditional party guile. So you get the stronger beer, and then you get the second runnings, a second lot of. Basically, when you brew a beer from the mash, you get the strong beer, and then you do another runnings of of liquor, hot water, and you get lower strength beer. So apparently, it's still brewed like that. I don't know if that's true. That's only my research from the internet. Golden Pride is brewed the same base recipe as vintage ale. That's interesting. We'll come on to that. The difference is that Golden Pride is always hopped consistently with North Down, Goldings, Challenger and Target. Initially brewed at 9% ABV, but then was reduced in the 80s to 8.5%. And again, the head brewer, Reg Drury, said that was actually a good move because the beer became more balanced and it made it a better beer. So that's the Golden Pride. So let's get that Golden Pride cracked into a glass. Okay, so I've got it down to about right temperature. We say around about 12 degrees cellar temp for these beers. And 8.5%. It's a big beer. I actually bought this one from Waitrose. So there we go. There it is in the glass. There's the Golden Pride in the glass. It looks absolutely stunning. It looks superb, doesn't it, to be honest? A nice, rich looking body, nice off-white, creamy looking head. It's like a deep, it's more amber, isn't it, than it is golden. Definitely got an amber, like a nice dark amber colour. It looks fantastic, if I'm honest. It looks good in the light. Orangey, yeah, looks really good. And that nice creamy head. So then we move on to the vintage ale. Now this was gifted to me by Mark, a very good friend of mine. He actually went to London to meet up with his daughter, and when he was there, he knew I was having a bit of a rough time, and he came back and he actually went to Fuller's Brewery and he bought me this, and he brought it all the way back to the northwest, and he gave it to me, and I've not really had time to drink it, but this is the right time now. I think it's just about the right time to do this video and to get into this beer. Never had the vintage ale. I've heard a lot about him, and let's see what else I've got. So the vintage ale, it's been brewed since 1997. It was initially first brewed as a commemorative ale. I think it's to celebrate possibly the Golden Pride because it's 30 years apart. I'm not 100% on that, but I think that's what it might have been, because it's got the same ABV. It's 8.5, and they're saying that they're very similar base malts, etc. Again, the first couple of brews were Reg Drury, then he passed it on to John Keeling, and then that was passed on to Georgina Young, and now it's with Guy Stewart. So Guy Stewart would have brewed this vintage ale, this 2023 version. Basically, it's all about using the best ingredients that Fuller's have had during that year. So they want to use the best grains and the best hops of that year. And the good thing about it, this changes every year. The hops change on this every year, so they're using the best. This one's consistent. So this is like the base beer of this, but this one changes every year because of the hops. And I think in this 2023 version, we've got Opus, Archer, and Charles Farren 185 experimental hop, and it's got pale malt and there's dark like roast malt in there. DRC it's called. They produce 50,000 bottles a year. The bottle will have a number on it, so when I get that out, it'll have a number on the bottle as well. Individually numbered, yes. Brewed every year since using the best ingredients. Well, I said that, haven't I? It says here, vintage ale is based on the Golden Promise, which we've already mentioned, and comes from the same mash, but basically this is conditioned over it might be a month or two in the brewery. So it goes through its fermentation, and then it's conditioned at 8 degrees, and then it's put into cask and bottle conditioned. So this is treated different. This has been pasteurized, this has gone through, it's not bottle conditioned. So this one is like the bottle conditioned version of a Golden Pride. So they're so very similar. I never knew this. I really didn't. The only reason when I picked up the Golden Pride for 8.5% vintage, so I had a look and a bit of research into it. So put in the comments if you know anything different, because it is a little bit confusing because this does slightly changes the malts each year. So is that the version, is Golden Pride a core beer? Do they brew that only once a year and then split it between the vintage ale and the Golden Pride? Or is that a core beer and that sticks to a recipe? Do they just use the same percentages of pale malts? I don't know, but all I know is this is based on that. And they say, I mean, I've found out they're saying that the mash is the same. So is it coming from the same beer? Is that only released once a year as well? And if so, what bottles is this? The 2024 version? Because it's already been brewed and it's probably now conditioning. It's going to go into bottles a bit later in the year. I don't know. It's June 2024 now. It's apparently it ages very well, the vintage ale, and John Keelan says that it's best at 4 to 5 years old to drink it. So yeah, it's interesting. Both interesting beers from Fuller's. So need to crack open the vintage ale. First thing I need to do is get it out of this box, and that's the other thing, they all come in these presentation boxes as well, vintage ales, all the way from 1997. So there is the vintage one. Let's get it in the glass, so put it side by side. That's just, head's died down a bit on that, but I'd expect that from it. 8.5 anyway. So the bottle number is 71012 out of the 50,000. Thank you very much, Mark. Really appreciate you buying me this as well. So let's get it in there. See if it looks very similar. See, I don't think it will look similar because I've just looked, like I said, I just looked at the malt bill on this, and it's got that dark roasted crystal in there. But actually, looking at that, they do look very, very similar. Let's see if I can get a head going again on this one. So there's both beers in the glass. Now, do they look? They do look very similar. Apologies for the phone. They really, really do. There's not a lot of difference in colour, honestly. If anything, the Golden Pride looks a little bit darker, but I think there's chocolate malt in the Golden Pride when I looked at that. So yeah, maybe it's not the same bill. I don't know. I've just, like I said, just researched it, and they're saying it comes from the same mash. I don't know, and I don't know if that's a core beer, like I said. But they look very, very similar. Both 8.5%. It is based on it. That was classed as a barley wine. It's now classed as an ale. This is classed as an old ale. It's the same thing. So that is based on that. So they're both barley wines. That's what I think they are anyway. Like I say, they look very, very similar. And I'm not going to do a compare because this one is going to be, this is the thing with the vintage ale, is very crafty because it's every year it's moving forward. New hops always being put into it. This one's just a consistent beer. So this is really crafty. And you say it's a traditional brewer, but that is definitely craft beer in my eyes because it's moving on every year, looking at new ways and getting new tastes on the palate and bringing them to us. So let's try the golden ale at 8.5%. Ooh, sweetness on there. Sweet and like dark fruits, malty, like a rich malt nose. Yeah, it's very sweet, very rich malt, like a crust of a bread, if you can imagine that sort of. That's a breadiness on the nose, but a little bit spicy. Smells like a good spiced fruit cake. That's probably the best way to describe it. A spiced fruit cake. Even including the actual cake part of it, the batter. Yeah, that smells really, really good. Okay, let's get a nose on the vintage ale. Oh no, yeah, I can get the same very similar back note of the malt, and you are getting that rich fruit cake as well. But there's a little bit more there. There's definitely some not dark fruits, but a little bit of like a stone fruit, something apricot, make a little bit of almond. Ooh, tell you what, they both smell absolutely fantastic. They both smell like they're going to be, well, they are big beers, really big beers, but very malty, a little bit spicy on both. Very, very reminiscent of like I say, a Christmas fruit cake. Maybe not for Christmas, but a fruit cake. And this one's just got slightly more hop nose when you're getting like a fruity stone fruit nose. Very sweet nose as well there. I'm going to go for the vintage ale first because this is very, very special. Okay, cheers. It's like an ESB, but pumped up. It's got, I tell you what, straight away I'm not getting the alcohol. 8.5%, I'm not getting that. There's a nice note. Also, I think they're also known, this is known as the cognac of the beer world, and this is known as a claret of the beer world, so they've got, you know, different things going on there as well. They're very well received in the beer world. I don't know why I just went off on a tangent, but that has got them ESB, so you're getting that nice, rich malt, toasty, little bit roasty, a nice, calm bitterness on the tongue, orange coming through for sure, a sweetness which then sort of tames everything. So you've got a really low bitterness, but then you've got this sweetness which goes across the palate, and then you've got a nice fruitiness. The drinkability on that is really high, which is really dangerous because it doesn't come across as a big 8.5%. There's definitely a little bit of licorice at the back as well, like a slight licorice note. But what I'm not liking about that is this vibrant, it's really hard to pull out. There's a vibrant fruit there. It's not like a fruity, hazy IPA fruitness. There's like a nice fruit there with a little bit of sweetness, which is balancing with that slight bitterness, but it's coming together with that malt and that, like I say, that Christmas or fruitcake. I keep saying Christmas, but fruitcake, if you can imagine. And it just works really, really well. Long lasting. Definitely got a good body on it. You know, that's one of the things. It's got a really nice body, but it's also drying, which makes you want to go back for more. So that sweetness does go, and then you want to go back for more because it dries the palate. I really, really like that. There's a slight woody earthiness there as well, right at the back end. I'm just getting that now, like an earthiness. It's got like a definite British hop stamp on it, and you're getting that right at the back end. A little bit zingy, right at the back, and then getting an earthiness, which just is fantastic. It's very complex and very hard to pull apart, if I'm honest. Very hard to pull apart, but that is a fantastic beer. Cheers, Mark. Thank you so much. That is top quality beer. It really, really is. I am not going to rush that. Even though the drinkability is really high, I am not going to rush it. And I've got this as well. So after we'll get Mrs. B involved in drinking these. Okay, so let's try the Golden Pride. Cheers. Definitely different. More bitter for me. Sweeter, more bitter. The rich dried fruit is coming through more on this one for me. So this has got these sweet fruits, maybe a little bit of stone fruit, very drinkable. This one feels a little bit more heavy going, definitely. The drinkability is different. This one feels like calm yourself down, because this one is a sipper. It's got that strong malt note, and it's got, I'd say, slight, and I mean slight, metallic taste there, just across the back, which I'm not a massive fan of at all. But it's got a slight metallic taste, which this one hasn't. It's smooth. They're both smooth. Both got a lovely body. I am starting to compare it now, which I wasn't going to do that, but I've just fallen into it. Yeah, it doesn't. This one's nice, but the flavour for me, it's quite strong. Then it goes a little bit bitter. Then you get that like slight zinginess, and then it goes. It's not as long lasting as this one. This feels like it's got more about it, and it lasts a lot longer on the palate, and it makes you want to go back for more. And it just feels like it's got a bit more about it than this one. This one's still a good beer, but that one's a great beer. That's the difference. It's a good beer. Yes, I'd have it again, but that's a great beer, and that is, you can just tell that that's just a level up. You really, really can. Yeah, slightly more bitter, 100% it is. If I go in for this now, after that, better sweetness, 100%. Now I'm getting a little bit more orange on this as I've gone back from there to there. I feel like I'm getting a bit of orange. That's a good beer. I'd have it again, but I've put it up against a beer that is just blown it out from the same brewery. Totally, for me, very close, but at the same time, quite far apart as well, which is unbelievable. But that is something special. Let me get my glasses. Okay, I'm back. So the Golden Pride says superior strength ale, 8.5%. Our exceptionally fine strong ale of immense character and finesse is brewed from pale and crystal malts. That is as well. Golden Prides are exceptionally fine strong ale. The rich malty flavours from the pale ale and crystal malts are balanced by North, Down, Challenger, Goldings and Target. That's what I've seen on the internet as well. Creating a full flavoured beer with an intense finish. Now, the intense finish for me, like I said, was just a slight metallic finish at the very end from when that bitterness left, but also it just dropped. Where this one, it's a long lasting finish. Let's see what this one says. There's lots of stuff on this. Bottle conditioned, so that's a difference straight away. Like I say, this took a lot. They did like 8 degrees maturity in the brewery and all that, and I think it's come out in the beer. Very, very complex. As with every vintage ale, this beer is brewed to mature over time. Bottle conditioned, a natural sediment will form, so store upright and pour carefully. While we always put a best before date on this bottle, the flavours will continue to mature and develop for many years after that. 2023. I don't think it says on there who the head brewer was, but sometimes they have who the head brewer is on these sort of things. Normally signed off. It's the same on the box. Just says here, an annual limited edition brew, Fuller's Vintage Ale is the most special beer to leave our Griffin brewery each year. Our 2023 Vintage Ale combines the best of traditional taste with new hop varieties to deliver this year's own distinct character. That's why it's crafty. Every year it's different. Every year it's distinct. It's got different flavours, different malts, and they're looking for the best as well. Pale Ale malt is at the heart for delicate sweetness combined with DRC, a double roasted crystal malt, to provide deeper toffee and raisin tone. I'm definitely getting them raisin tones. I wasn't getting the toffee. I'll be honest, I wasn't getting the toffee. Once more, we highlight modern English hops using Opus, Archer, and CF185 to provide peach accents. Peach? I was saying stone for it, wasn't I? And a pronounced citrus note. Orange when I went back again, I got. Underpinned by the zesty marmalade character, orange, of our famous Fuller's yeast. As with every vintage ale, this bottle conditioned beer is made to mature. Therefore, while we always state a best before date, the flavours will continue to develop for many more years. A natural sediment will form. I've already read that, haven't I? And it's got best before 31st December 2026. But believe me, John Keeling recommends 4 to 5 years at least to get the best out of it. So there we go. That is Fuller's from Chiswick. Now brewed by Asahi in the Griffin Brewery, which is great because that promise to keep brewing there is fantastic. Golden Pride, it's a good beer. If I wasn't having this at the side of it, I'd just be really pleased with this. It is a good beer. It's really nice, that. But this one, not even just. It's another level. It's just that more complex and that little bit more sweetness just seems to come together really well in that. I'm not getting as much sweet malt in this from the malt, the flavours, as I am in this, and that just gives that one a little bit more complexity. But there you go. Would I drink them both again? Definitely. And this one's going to change each year, so I'll be trying to get hold of that every year. That one I'd drink again, 100% I would. And like I said, I got that from Waitrose, and I think it was in a deal where it was something like 3 Fuller's beers for £5.75, and that's in it. 8.5% Golden Pride is in that offer. Can't go wrong there. You really can't. And Mark, thank you so much. And yeah, it has put a smile on my face. So you'll be happy to know that as well. But that's fantastic. Fuller's, there'll be more coming on the channel. These Fuller's beers that I've got ideas for them. Maybe a bit of stories behind them. I do like to look and research about some of the beers rather than just doing the beer. Sometimes I will just review the beer, but sometimes I think some beers need that extra bit of effort from me to put in, just like these two, and to tell that story. Okay, please comment below if you know anything more about the Golden Pride. Is it a core beer? Is it brewed at the same time? Is that the other version of that, but that's bottle conditioned and different hops? So at the mash, it's the same mash, it's the same liquor, but then the hops, and what's the difference? And how does that happen year on year? Because that's got different malts in it from each year. So is that 2024's vintage? And is that 2023's and 2023's Golden Pride? Was that malt? I don't know. That's a question for someone in the comments. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers. Put my glasses down. I'm going to cheers with this vintage ale because it just nips that one tonight. Okay, thanks for watching. Cheers, and I'll see you on another one.